Hello and welcome to my top 5 Colin Baker stories. So yeah, let's get on to number 5. So at number 5 we have A Revelation of the Daleks. Now, again, as I said in my choosing because of Resurrection of the Daleks, I've now chosen Revelation of the Daleks for the same reasons, because it has a darker feel to it. It adds a new element to the Dalek idea, because now we've got humans turning into Daleks, as you can see there, which is awfully cool. Worth a mention is Colin Baker's first series, season 22, was in a 45-minute format. Now you might think that's not very bizarre, but for the classics that's unusual, because the classic series is traditionally known for a 25-minute format. And I don't think it got the best reception, so they sort of said, right, we'll go back to 25 minutes. This story is a two-parter, if I haven't said before, and it's set on a planet called Necros, where they do all these sort of funeral arrangements sort of thing, and it's got Davros in it, as you can tell by the cover. Now, there is one character in this which I genuinely don't like, and it is the DJ. I thought he was just a pointless character to have in the story, and I don't think he actually added anything. I think they could have easily had Davros observing the Doctor instead of that DJ character. I literally clapped when the Dalek exterminated. I was like, yes, that Dalek is doing a good job getting rid of that character. I don't know if anybody else agrees with me on that, but the DJ is just a character. He's just a character. What was just not worth having in the story. Okay, at number 4 we have Mark of the Rani. Now I've chosen this because some of this was filmed by where I live, well, a 20-minute drive from where I live, and introduces a Rani and has a master in it. And it's interesting that's the same sort of idea. When you see two Doctors together, you're interested to see how they react, and it's interesting to see how the master and the Rani sort of react off each other and seeing their different ways of how, well, dealing with situations. And of course the Doctor's sort of caught up in this, and it's set in the Industrial Revolution, so we're talking sort of 1800s, sort of late 1800s. Yeah, and I think this is a really good historical story. We've got the Rani taking the sort of idea out the master's sort of book, using disguises as I think it was a washerwoman, and she runs a bathhouse, and the victim is inside sort of get gassed and become part of a devilishly scheme to sort of start rebelling across the whole sort of England. I mean, you just want to go to that place really and just see that happen. Perfect sort of place to go, get gassed and start a big rebellion, well, the Luddite rebellion. Yeah, and of course, as I've said, the Doctor and Perry get caught up in this. Yeah, brilliant story. At number 3 we have Vengeance on Varos. Now I've chosen this because this story actually makes you feel like you're actually on Varos. It's like, it's a new series equivalent of Bad Wolf, with the sort of reality TV show aspect, where you can see your Prime Minister suffer, or you can make him sort of be sort of happy and not sort of get tortured. And it's sort of, the ideas run by Syl, this character here, which I think is the most iconic Sixth Doctor villain. And he has a creepy laugh, which is creepy, to say the least. This story is renowned for one scene, which is the acid bath scene, which I think got a bit of criticism at the time. Not as much as The Deadly Assassin when Tom Baker sort of got submerged in water. But you know, I think it was quite an interesting scene to see Colin Baker's Doctor very unpredictable, and that makes Colin Baker's Doctor stand out, unlike it. Well, his coat made him stand out. But I think the cliffhanger in this is brilliant. This is a two-part story as well. Like, I don't know if I said the Mark of Rani is also a two-parter. But this cliffhanger makes you feel like you're actually on Varos when you see the Doctor sort of collapse from this illusion of sort of a desert, and it makes you feel like you're actually on Varos watching the Doctor die, and the screen just cuts out and it goes into the credits. And I just think it's a brilliant cliffhanger, very clever cliffhanger, very clever story, and it's just fantastic. At number 2 we have Colin Baker's second story, Attack of the Cybermen, which what I've chosen this because it has lots of little nods to the 60s sort of Cybermen stories and some 60s references, such as the Cybermen being in the sewers. We're going back to Telos as seen in Tomb of the Cybermen, and we've got it set in 1986. And if I'm right in saying the 10th planet was set in 1986 in the South Pole, so this sort of nods to that. And it goes back, and the Doctor and Peri go to Totter's Lane. Don't know if you can see on the back there, Totter's Lane there. And it sees the return of the Cyber Controller, last seen in Tomb of the Cybermen, played by the same person who played him back in '67, I think it was, Michael Kilgareth, who played the K1 robot. And I love the stealth Cybermen. That's Cyberman there. And I love the Cryons, even though they sound like they're crayons, whatever. And they're the original inhabitants of Telos, which is interesting. And yeah, Colin Baker's very much a sort of action person in this, blowing up cyber controllers, leaders and Cybermen. And I think this is the first story to introduce the idea of conversion, where you see people being converted into Cybermen, which is fun. And it sees the return of Lytton in Resurrection of the Daleks, but he gets tortured in a brutal way. It's just a brutal scene that just shows the Cybermen are quite, they use brute force just to get a bit of information. So at number 1 we have the Trial of a Time Lord. Now, I know this has 4 stories, but I think you have to watch all of these episodes or stories to understand the full sort of goings on. So just bring it forward. If I just give you a bit of background information on this, when Revelation of the Daleks finished season 22, the Doctor's going to take Peri to Blackpool, but it was cleverly edited out that the Doctor would go, I'll take you to, and that's where it stopped. But they originally filmed it to say, I will take you to Blackpool, and the Doctor would have done battle with a Celestial Toymaker, and would have battled an evil dwarf mining lord in another story, and faced the Autons in Japan, is it, or China, written by Robert Holmes. And the other one was Syl and the Ice Warriors having an alliance. Syl and the Ice Warriors sort of joining together to sort of do some dodgy business. All of those stories I think are on audio form. I'm not sure about the Evil Dwarf Lord one. I think that's a novelisation, and the Autumn one isn't an audio. I think the rest are available in audio form. Yeah, there's a documentary all about that on one of these DVDs, but I'm sure it's on YouTube because I watched it about a month ago now. Yeah, so we just quickly run through the stories. The first story is the Mysterious Planet, which I think is a brilliant opening story. As a Carry-On person who plays the Queen, I love the robots in this. I think the robots are fantastic. Reminds me very much of the K1 robot, and I do love the K1 robot. I think it's just brilliant. Yeah. What else? Introduces Savalon Blitz, who would later return in The Ultimate Foe, and Dragonfire, and would introduce Ace as a companion. Story number 2 is Mind Warp, which sees the return of Syl and has Brian Blessed in it as a guest star. And I don't know if I think I've already said it, but this says goodbye to Perry, even though there are alternative endings for Perry's character. One is she marries Brian Blessed character, and I think the other one is when General Kai visit. That character has a brain transplant in Perry's body. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not. I think the other one's an audio-based one. Yeah, but the third story is the Terror of the Vervoids, which introduces Bonnie Langford's character, Mel, who's the typical Who girl, scream at the sort of monster. Yeah, this is a murder mystery story. The Vervoids remind me very much of the crinoid again, a plant sort of life form. Yeah, so one of my favourite stories from this series. And the last one is The Ultimate Foe, where the Doctor and the Valeyard do battle in the Matrix. I feel that this story could be a bit longer because I think it's very action packed. Yeah, I think it's a really good story. Yeah, it's really good. Do like it. People say that the Valeyard is a future incarnation of the Doctor, or a darker darker side to the Doctor. But I think on Doctor Who Confidential they said the Dream Lord was a darker side to the Doctor, so the Dream Lord could be the Valeyard. I'm hoping to review the Trial of the Time Lords at some point. I don't know when, but hopefully I will review it soon. If you guys have got a top 5 Colin Baker story, or top 3, or if you haven't done a video on it, please do comment, because I'll be very much interested to hear your opinion on the Colin Baker era. I genuinely do like Colin Baker's Doctor. I just think some of the stories let him down. Time Lash. Yes. But this has been my top 5 Colin Baker stories. Hope you've enjoyed it. And I will see you on my top 5 Sylvester McCoy stories. So for now, tatty bye.